right, welcome to another episode of Save the Track Bike. I'm your host, Josh. On today's episode, I got Brian Megens of FixedGearCrit.com. We just have a conversation about fixed gear racing and the website and just like what the future of fixed gear racing looks like and all that stuff. So, yeah, we cover a lot of ground, so let's just get into it.
I study and work in Maastricht, which is you could say cycling capital of the Netherlands, because it's where the Amstel Gold Race, one of the spring classics, starts.
Yeah.
So a lot of pros live in the neighborhood, and it's pretty cool. So we're back again?
Yeah. I don't know what happened.
No idea either.
All right. Okay, so we'll just get into it.
Hello. My name is Brian Megens. I started FixedGearCrit.com, which I now do together with my partner Koen. And I also race my fixed gear bike, and also this season some crits on the road. So yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. How did you get into cycling?
I only got into cycling to do it myself when I was 18. I always watched Tour de France when I was a kid, but then start playing football like most people actually do in the Netherlands, got injured, start playing darts on an international level in the youth, then got really fat and decided to quit darts. Actually first started with running and getting into nutrition. So I lost 26 kilos. Did kickboxing, and then when I was 18, I just was like, okay, if I ever want to do anything in cycling, then I have to start now. So I just bought a bike on a website like eBay and started racing. And the bike was like, $270. Maybe I replaced some parts, but the bike was cheaper than most people's wheel sets, but it's good enough to start racing. So yeah, that's how I started basically.
So how did that cycling kind of transfer into getting into fixed gear?
Well, that's a long story, because actually my fixed gear cycling career is basically my second cycling career, if you want to put it like that.
Yeah.
So I started when I was 18. Within 2 years, I got a contract on the road. I was a UCI Continental rider in 2011. Then I got a contract offered in the under-23 Continental team of the Rabobank, which was, I think probably the best under-23 team ever existed. For example, Rowan Dennis was in the team in the year before me, Tom Dumoulin, Kelderman, Mollema, Geesink, Kruijs, you name them. Almost all Dutch pros have a history of being in the Rabobank team. Maybe not Terpstra and Poels, but for the rest, they've all been in the under-23 team. So that was a really big honor. But at the same time, cycling went down the drain with Lance Armstrong confessing.
Yep.
So I had a bad season, got injured, overtrained, crashed. And then the Rabobank team decided to quit. So I was like, I was 23, didn't really look good in the future of cycling. So I decided to just quit and started university. That's when I moved to Maastricht to start studying. And during my bachelor's, like every hipster student, you go to a coffee place to study.
Yep.
and enjoy good coffee. So they had like fixed gear bikes, and I had no clue, never heard really of them. And I found it really cool, interesting, build a fixed gear bike, started riding it in the hills and stuff, and loved it, and that's how I started racing.
What is it about fixed gear bikes that attracted you to it?
It's such a cliche, but it's true. It's the simplicity. You're really one with the bike. Like I said, in my road years, all they cared about at the Rabobank team was putting as many watts per kilo, and at some point I was putting 6.63 watts per kilo, which was top 15 ever measured at that time with the pros. But cycling is not all about watts per kilo. Maybe Team Sky is trying to do it that way, but it's so much more. It's about bike handling, it's technique, it's about riding in the peloton, etc., etc. So it was actually a big challenge because I was never a great bike handler because I only started when I was 18 and no one ever really told me to, train it or to do other cycling disciplines to become better at it. So that's when I found out about the fixed gear bikes after basically been away from the bike for 4 years, barely did any case. And then, the simplicity, also riding in the hills, I love it because you just have you can't just gear down. You just have to give everything to make it to the top of the hill. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I love riding because I live in Colorado in the U.S. and we have lots of mountains and stuff. So I love riding my road bike there, but I also love riding fixed gear bikes up mountains. It's so much fun.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like it's not a lot. Like more and more fixed gear crit racers are getting into road bikes and training on road bikes. And actually, I also have been training a lot on my road bike because it has a power meter. And Rotor doesn't yet have a power meter available on the track, but it's going to come soon, luckily. And then, because if it's up to me, I would literally never ride my road bike anymore. It's just that I have to in races and now to see the watts, etc. But riding fixed is the experience of riding fixed. You can't even compare it with a road bike. It's so different.
I agree completely. It's just like there's just something about it. And it's always like that also cliche of it just being like kind of ephemeral, it's like there's nothing else that really feels quite like it. And it is kind of like that connection a little bit, which I think, again, it's a cliche, but I really do think that it's there and I feel it.
Oh, and you have more control over your bike. Like,
yeah.
It's you can just put so much more pressure on your rear wheel, and on a road bike, it's just there's nothing. You can only brake and you just let it go, and that's it. But on a road bike, you can just put pressure on your rear wheel when cornering, etc. It's and people don't believe it. Like even I was at 6 Day Rotterdam, and I saw all the track bikes. They don't even have a lock ring because it's lighter, but even the track cyclists from the 6 days, they have no idea about backpedaling. Like, just, it doesn't exist to them. Yeah, it's weird, but
that is kind of funny. I never even really thought about that.
Yeah, it's just to them, to them it's a fixed gear, and it means the pedals always move forward, but they never actually think about, obviously on a velodrome you don't need to do it that often, but it doesn't even come up that we actually have to, put a lot of pressure pedaling while trying to pedal backwards, meaning slowing down. So yeah.
It was funny because it's kind of related to this. I was training yesterday, and I was talking to James Grady about this a little bit yesterday when I was talking to him, but I was training and I randomly in my head, I just randomly thought fixed gear bikes are made for crits. And I think that we're only realizing that now.
No, yeah,
it just makes so much sense when you really think about it. Because I've been reading that Phil Gaiman book, and he was talking about being in crits and people brake checking each other and stuff. And I was like, brake checking, that's so lame. And then I was just like, fixed gear, it's like, you're just going forward, you're controlling it with your feet, you're backpedaling to slow down, it's just all there.
Your lines must be fluent, and, it's like yesterday I was riding the opening classic in the Netherlands, and I was in a pack of almost 200 riders, and I was just thinking on really narrow roads, and I was like, well, just really give me fixed gear crits where, it's about having technique and bike handling skills instead of just being a warrior and fight your way up in the peloton. Of course you have to fight in the fixed gear crits, but it's a different kind of fighting. I think in a peloton with 200, especially in Dutch echelon races, it's not about how good you are or how strong you are. It's just about if you're in the top 30 and if you're either strong enough to stay in the top 30 or just you have a big mouth and you push people aside, then you're set. It's not about it's a different type of thing. I'm more in love with the fixed gear crits now, and I don't know. I love the skill that you need for it. So
Yeah, I feel you there. So how did fixedgearcrit.com come about?
Yeah, interesting story. So I entered the scene. What is it now? 2000? Yeah, in I think in May 2016. That's when I did my first race, and I was only back 3 weeks on the bike. So after 4 years of not riding and being almost 20 kilos heavier because of daily gym workouts and stuff. And yeah, obviously I raced Red Hooks and got in touch with David, and yeah, we talked quite a bit because I used to, because he wanted to know the experience of former road racers and stuff. But I really felt that there was something missing in the scene because I saw the potential, and I really think it needs to be a separate discipline in cycling because it's a sport on its own. But there was nothing that brought the scene together. I mean, Red Hook Crit is far above any other fixed gear crit, and I would even say any other bike race in the world, probably, maybe except for the 3 big tours. But if you see which budget Red Hook works and the Tour de France or something work, you can't even compare. But there was nothing that brought the scene together to actually try to, like promote the sport for people from within the scene, like to connect them, and from people outside the scene. Because for me, like, everything was just in that Facebook bubble, like if you were in the bubble, you got like most of the news. But for people, especially when I just entered, I had no idea what the world was or how, that there were races all over the world. So I thought the biggest contribution I can do to the sport is not win races. Of course, you want to win races, but it's more to set something up which brings the community together and try to help and, promote the sport.
Absolutely. That's exactly why this podcast exists too.
I mean, like, it's nice if I train my balls off and give everything and do a top 5 in Red Hook or whatever, and that would be a fucking amazing sorry for the word.
Oh, you're fine.
That would be an amazing experience for me, but only for me. And people will forget about it within 2 Red Hooks. And with this, I can actually, make myself more valuable for the whole community. So, I also have to mention that obviously Red Hook was like really accommodating, and they became our first partner. And because of them, we actually could start the whole project. So that's like, they're of massive support. I mean, without Red Hook, probably the whole sport wouldn't exist. So,
I mean, they've done so much for a while, they basically were the sport. So it's only now seems to be growing a little bit beyond it as well, which is really exciting. And that's why I'm so glad that, like, some people like to kind of criticize Red Hook, I guess, for how big it's getting, because that's just what happens when things grow and people criticize it and stuff like that. But when that happens, and you have a race that is on such a big scale that it's attracting all these road riders and all this stuff, and you're getting these big sponsors, then that just makes an opportunity to have more races.
Oh yeah, but that's the whole thing, like the Red Hook is at the moment is still the sport, and I hope it slowly develops into Red Hook being like the World Series, or we would call it in Europe the Champions League of our sport, where the best of the best come together to compete. And then under that, I hope you can see national and local series popping up. But people criticizing Red Hook, it's people like to bitch about everything, And, maybe if people are not bitching about you, or you're not doing a thing right, because same goes for fixed gear crit. A lot of people criticize it, but it is what it is. I'll try to, I do my best to make a good website, the same as David does an amazing job and deserves nothing but respect for getting a race within 10 years from being an unsanctioned race in the streets of Red Hook to a global series.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really cool to see the kind of, that ESPN documentary that it sprouted, and like the all of the kind of cycling news websites and stuff are starting to kind of pay attention a little bit more now that more people are coming over. which is kind of the reason, again, why I started this podcast, is because I heard an interview with, I'm forgetting who it was now. It was somebody from Specialized Rocket Espresso, is one of the guys, and he was on a podcast that I listened to, and I just remember being like, I want to know more about all these people.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing why Koen and I run Fixed Gear Crit as well, is to just have, like, in order to make it a sport, people need to know the characters.
Exactly.
That's so you need to tell the stories, because and it makes them also more human. They're not just machines stepping on a bike, but they're people most of them having jobs and just try to race their bike. Like, for example, Ash Duban works her ass off as a designer 40 hours a week and then tries to ride her bike next to it. Same goes for Raphaël Lemieux. She's an optician, I believe. So that's I think it's important, and it's really good that you also started a podcast, because we can't do it alone as Fixed Gear Crit. Retu can't do it alone. No one can do it. It can only work when the whole community and I only appreciate it when more voices of the community are in, because we try as Fixed Gear Crit to have as many people have a voice on our forum. That's why on our website. That's why we're starting a forum. That's where I was getting into, we have we have a lot of guest contributions. The more voices we can represent, the better. Of course, if they're if they have an interesting, you can't just publish everything. But so yeah,
absolutely. And I think that you guys are doing a great job too, because I remember when I was first kind of getting interested, because I've been riding fixed gear bikes for a long time, and I was never interested in like any kind of racing or anything until like 2 years ago, or maybe it was like right when you guys started your website. I don't even know, but I was just looking because I found out about Red Hook, and I was like, what's going on with more races? Like, where do I find these? And then when I found your website, it was such a great resource, like with the calendar and everything, just to find these like little races and stuff. And yeah, it was
that's what Koen. Yeah, that's what Koen is doing a great job with, putting the calendar up and also the database with results. Because we were also like, everyone's putting so much effort in getting a result in a race, and then they seem to be forgotten because no one had, no one kept track. I'm really pretty neutral at the moment for if the sport should be sanctioned or not. What I do hope is that more series pop up like Retuk that actually do not only organize a crit but organize an event, if you know what I'm saying. Because organizing a crit is really cool, but trying to get people to watch the race and create entertainment, that's the only way our sport can have future. Any sport can have future, in my opinion, because without spectators, without people going to the races, without publicity, there will be no money in the sport. And we live in a capitalist world, and we're not going to change that overnight. So we should also accept that and try to make the best out of it in order to, have future for our sport.
Absolutely. And I think that the more we can show that, and it's such a spectator friendly. So I did want to kind of get into that. Like, fixed gear crit racing is growing so much, it seems, and Red Hook specifically. Like, what do you think it is about it that is attracting so many people?
It's new, it's fast. Like, if you see the crits in Europe, especially in the Netherlands, I think honestly Dutch crits come, road cycling crits come the closest to fixed gear crits. Format wise, they're 80k, so they're a lot longer, but they're also like 2 to 3k laps or even less. But there's no one watching them. There's no entertainment. And with Retuk, it's like you want to see the race because it's so much more than a race. It's the whole vibe. It's the whole community coming together, and then it's awesome bike racing with, like people immediately know and realize that everyone in racing a Retuk Crit final is a top athlete, because you need to have such good bike skills and also endurance and be explosive. It's people know that when you say that these bikes don't have brakes, they're fixed gears, people probably don't even dare to ride them, on the streets just for 100 meters because they have no clue what to do.
Yeah, I think it's just so much like, I went and watched the Colorado Classic this year, and you get like a glimpse of people as they pass by, but being in that atmosphere of being at a crit when everybody is like huddled together and you get to watch the whole race and you get to experience like, somebody attacking or somebody like slipping out in a corner or whatever. Not that you want to see crashes, but just like, you never know what's going to happen. And you can have something like the guy being at the top of the series, like, for example, last year with Colin Strickland, getting crashed out. And then all of a sudden you have this opportunity for somebody maybe completely different that is like all of a sudden at the top of the, ladder, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's 45 minutes of craziness, of absolute madness. But on top of that, every rider, at least the ones I know, are super approachable. I mean, you can just, with Retrocrit Brooklyn coming up, if anyone's there, just, approach people, because they're not, there may be superstars in the sports, but there's, normal human beings and act accordingly. I mean, I talked with Ivan Cortina, who won Retrocrit Milan and is a World Tour rider, and in my opinion, probably one of the biggest talents for the Spring Classics in the next years. And people bitched a bit about a pro coming in and winning, but it was not just a pro coming in. Like, Ivan didn't just come in and win, but he became part of the community. I mean, he accepted the values, or he, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, yeah. He lived the lifestyle. He still lives the lifestyle. And yes, he happens to be a fucking talented rider and probably kicks all of her asses. But I honestly don't understand why people would mind that, because they not just come in for the money. They just come in because they think our sport is awesome, and we should be proud of that, instead of bitching on pros coming in and now I'm getting my ass kicked. Well, shit happens. Come back stronger next time. Like, I got my ass kicked in Milan, but I'm not bitching on Ivan for that. Ivan did a fucking great job, and I just wasn't good enough that day. End of story.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's how sport works, right?
Yeah, it's just always a bit sad when people, like, I understand when 5 years ago, people who were most people who are at the top now, not many can compete now at the top, but you should see that as an achievement for the sport. And,
absolutely.
And of course you have, Jesus, now I can't even, what's Evan Murphy. Like, he was at the top a couple of years ago, and he's still at the top because he's just an awesome bike rider, and he has crazy bike handling skills, and he's explosive as hell, and he always tries to make the race, so it's still possible. But it's just a bit sad when people, bitch on development in the sport. So yeah,
no, I feel you. I agree with you 100%. And that's such like a fine line to walk as far as like coverage and stuff goes, but it's also like, it's about growing the sport, and it's about like the more, just like making it more visible.
to me, it's really easy. Like, if people join the sport because they love it, because they want to experience it and they want to be part of it, everyone's welcome. I don't care how good you are, or how if it's the first time you've ever been on a bike.
Yeah.
That's my criteria. It's just, do you love this? Are you attracted to the sport because you think it's cool and the community is cool and their values, and you want to, join that? Then everyone's welcome. So that's why I think it's so weird that for some, the criteria is everyone's welcome as long as you're not better than I am, which is, yeah, that's I just don't understand that. But yeah.
No, I feel you. And you're so right too, because I had that conversation with Angus Morton, and just like, what a down to earth dude who just like is such a good cyclist, and he's just attracted to the sport because he was like, I never really 100% felt like he completely fit in the road bike world, essentially. And he was like, I'm kind of just looking for my people, and this seems like my people.
Yeah, no, I fully understand. I mean, when I was in the pro team, a lot of people in the scene just thought like their whole the whole world revolved around cycling. Like, I remember the national coach of the under 23. Like I got selected once or twice to represent the Dutch under 23 squad. And I saw him 2 years after I stopped cycling. And then, we just had a quick chat like, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And then I just, he asked me, how are you? What are you doing? I was like, yeah, I'm studying, doing my bachelor at university. And he literally told me, we also need those people. Like, like the whole world revolves around cycling. And then we also need like 5 other people who do other stuff. It's just, yeah, it's the pro road cycling world is, it's opening up actually. And I also think the fixed gear community has an influence on it. Like the new generation, almost everyone knows about fixed gear crits and about Retuk, and the majority thinks we're still insane. But I see the mentality changing a bit. I mean, if you look at Laurens ten Dam, he's from the old generation, but he has that new generation mindset. He's just like, we also need to enjoy our lives and enjoy what we do, and not only live like a monk and, yeah.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And I think it's funny that there's so much criticism of like fixed gear crits being like super dangerous or whatever. When I don't know, I come from a history of skateboarding and racing BMX and you know what I mean? And in Colorado, so many people like huck themselves down mountains on mountain bikes, and I'm like, why is there such a focus on fixed gear crits being more dangerous than all this other crazy stuff people are doing?
Oh, Jesus. Yesterday I was in the peloton with 200 other riders, and I saw 3 crashes only in the neutral zone.
Yeah.
And then the race still had to start. And I just told some guys, like, on easy moments, that if anyone ever tells me that a fixed gear crit is dangerous, I'm going to make them ride this race for 10K, and then they should make up their minds. I mean, honestly, road cycling is dangerous. If you go with 200 people over narrow roads, and you don't know, especially in the Netherlands, the roads are quite narrow, and you just go left, right, and just all, like, you don't even know the course, that's an extreme sport. Like, once we had a training of Carlos Sainz, I believe he's a former downhill world champion, and he gave us a lesson in downhill, just an hour, which is ridiculous because you can't just learn everything in an hour. But he told us literally that downhill is not an extreme sport. Road cycling is. Like he said, we reckon the course several times, multiple times, every corner before we even do one ride. We have a lot of protection, and you guys just go with 180 people over roads you've never been to, downhill with only a small helmet on,
Yeah, right. And like Lycra, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you see like Richie Port or somebody like sliding on his ass across a descent, and you're like, yeah, that's scary too. Come on.
Yeah, Jesus. It's and also like I'm not going to proclaim that fixed gear crit is going to take over cycling, because I think, especially for the next decades, road cycling will be bigger. But I do think a lot of road cyclists can learn a lot, especially bike handling skills, from riding a fixed gear bike every now and then, even if it's just for training. Well, interesting difference that I noticed as a road racer, I saw corners as an obstacle, and as a fixed gear crit racer, you see corners as a way to try to maintain your speed or even gain speed. Mm-hmm. So that's a whole different approach. So in road cycling, you just sprint up to 5 meters before the corner, and then you just pull the brakes full, and then everyone just stops behind you. And if you're in 20th position, you can't even corner. You can basically just step off the bike and just turn it around and step on again, because there's no fluent line. Well, in fixed gear crits, you need to have a fluent line. And yes, if you're in 40th position, your line will not be as fluent as if you're in first, but it's still a lot more doable than in the road races, because you need to maintain as much speed as you can in corners.
Yeah, for sure. So where do you see kind of the future of the sport going?
It's I'm sad to say, but it's super fragile at the moment. It's that's a shame, because the sport still, Retro Crit is still central to the sport, which is a good thing, because we should be proud that such an awesome event, it is in our sport. But it's also fragile, because if Retuk doesn't have the financial capacity to, like if Rockstar, for example, decides not to give so much money to Retro Crit, then everyone's effed if there's no new sponsor. So I really think more and more national series should pop up. Like we have one in the Netherlands, NL Crit Series. There's quite some races in France too. In Italy, of course, Italy has the highest level, I think, of fixed gear crit racing. But I really think that's key. You can only make a sport survive when people can do it locally. So even how shabby the events are, even if it's on an abandoned parking somewhere, it's good to it needs to be accessible. That's the way forward. Have small local races and then a couple really big series or big races where a lot of people watch. That's how I see. That's the only way forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally see that, and I see it happening in the U.S. especially. I think this summer is going to end up being like a lot more like kind of DIY fixed gear crits, that at least a lot more that I'm hearing about than there were even last summer. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it could be a really interesting season.
Yeah, we really need those grassroots events, because without grassroots events, and you just can't depend on one awesome organization getting their shit together, but there needs to be, I really hope that in Germany they have the German Fixed Cup, I think, for the second year. Last year it was, I think, quite messy, and I think for this year they have a lot more structure already, so that's already good. Then you would already have one at least in Europe, in Italy, one in the Netherlands, one in Germany. I think there's a pretty big crit coming up in Brussels. So Belgium, I mean, that's a funny thing, because Belgium is by far the biggest cycling country in the world for pro road cycling. But because they have such a traditional mindset, they're also the hardest for the fixed gear crit community to gain popularity.
Yeah, I could see how that would be the case. And then there's also, it seems like Mission Crit is going to be pretty big this year. Like a lot of the top teams are going, it seems.
Yeah, I haven't really. I still need to speak with what's the name? James. Yeah. I still need to talk to him, because the thing is also, like some people, like we got asked quite often the question, "Oh, is this what you guys do full time?" But besides running the website, I still need to graduate my master's this year. I'm a freelance photographer, and I'm also trying to train every day. So I have like a 60-hour to 70 hours obligation every week. So we try to make time, for fixed gear crit as much as we can. But, we can't do everything, because in my ideal world, I would have already contacted all those people. But
right.
Yeah, I think Mission Crit is going to open their registrations on March 9. And around that time, I'll probably give him a call and see what the plans are.
Yeah, but absolutely. It seems rad, because I know that pretty much all of Specialized is going. I know that State Bicycle Team is all going. So I don't know. It looks like it's going to be pretty sweet, because I talked to him yesterday, and it's
that's good. Yeah, State has a team again. Yeah, they contacted us if we could help them in getting people to apply. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, also those companies who obviously have a big, their roots are fixed gear bikes. It's good that they also step in, and hopefully in the end you need companies from outside cycling, because even in the pro world, like the money doesn't come from within cycling.
Yeah.
The money comes from businesses outside cycling.
Yep. It comes from EF Education First Strap Back.
Yeah, that was quite an interesting change of scenario there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they lost some good riders, because my former teammate Dylan van Balen, he actually renewed his contract, and then because the future of the team became insecure, he signed with Team Sky now, and he got fourth in Tour of Flanders last year. So they lost a big gun, I would say. I like their kids though. The kids are pretty cool.
The pink.
Yeah, I mean,
I like it.
It's not ideal, But for what other and most pro road cycling teams have, yeah, by far the coolest.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. I think as far as the pro tour teams go, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Team Sky is also pretty cool. They always have their shit together, but it became a bit boring, year after year, very similar style.
Yeah. I love seeing like all the kits on the fixed gear world whenever they come out.
Yeah,
Especially like Specialized always has such rad looking stuff, and like
yeah.
Go
Apparently
ahead.
they're gonna do some art. I think they're gonna go. I'm not quite sure. So, but I heard rumors that they're gonna go back to more art style like they did in when they entered the scene in 2016, right? Yeah, when they had like different bikes, different kits, every red hook. So that would be cool.
Oh, that's really awesome. So I want to hear a little bit about whatever you can say about the bikes that you guys are working on for the Fixed Gear Crit team.
Yeah, that's I contact like Drew. I got in touch with Drew. He's the guy behind Spin on These, and it's just so funny. Like this guy knows all of his shit about wheels, and he thinks about it. Like it's so interesting because I was talking with. I'm also sponsored by Vittoria, the tire brand, and I was talking to the guy who's also in touch with all the pros and the pro teams for supplying it, and he was saying that one pro who did top fives in Grand Tours in the GC doesn't know shit about his tires, not even about the width, about the bar, the pressure. Like they completely don't think about it, and it's so funny because back in the days I was 65 kilos riding a 21 millimeter tube with I don't know like 11 bars in it. So every time we hit Flemish roads and cobblestones, there was just nowhere. And it's really cool that actually fixed gear crit racing is ahead of road racing, I would say. And Drew is, in my opinion, one of the pioneers. Only makes clincher wheels, I mean. But really, really wide rims. So you can mount 23 millimeters tires on it, and they're still 25.4. I actually measured it. So Drew told me, like, I had a lot of conversations with him, and he, like I basically told him, Drew, you're the expert. I want to ride with what you think is the best material for me. And yeah, that's how we're building a titanium fixed gear and road frame. And I want the road frame to be as similar as possible to the fixed. So, so I can, when I do road crits, I have the same feeling, sort of. Obviously not being a fixed gear, unfortunately. But yeah, it's gonna be really cool. Like he advises basically because of his really wide rim profile to just have 20 millimeter tires. And like I said, if you pump them up and you measure them, they're 25 point something, which is perfect. So yeah, it's gonna be. I can't wait for the wheels to get in. I'm gonna have pretty high rims as well for to be more aerodynamic. And yeah, the cool thing, they're gonna be like with parts from Rotor cranks. Rotor's also probably going to provide me with a power meter crank. So I would love to see the the watts in Retu Crit. And then Brooks for the saddle and the bar tape. Yeah, and then Vittoria tires. So it's going to be a really rad bike. And of course, Spin on These wheels. And then the brand because Drew has True Brand Spin on These for the wheels and Speed Metal for the titanium bikes. So yeah, the fork is already done. Custom paint job with the FGC logo on it and the Speed Metal logo. So I hope to get it within the next 2 weeks, and then I'll definitely do a photo shoot and drop some photos online and also explanation behind it, because it's not only a cool looking bike, but there's actually also rationale behind it. There's a reason why I ride certain with tires and rims and high rims, etc. So yeah, can't wait to present it.
Nice, that's awesome. I have a new frame on the way, so I'm very excited, but it's not titanium.
Yeah, I have a special relationship with titanium because it's actually the first, like the amateur team I joined, they provided us with carbon fiber bikes, and back then they had an integrated seat post. I don't know if you know that time, like that's 2009.
Yeah.
All the frames were integrated seat post. And then I was riding my bike, just training casually piano. And then the seat post just broke. So I had to go home 40K standing because the carbon fibers were just pointing really sharp, with a seat post in my hand and just standing home. And then I just called the company, the manufacturer, like, I'm not going to ride your shitty carbon fiber. And I saw that they had a titanium. So just I can live with the titanium. So I raced the rest of the season with that. And yeah, I always have a special relationship with it. And the cool thing is that Drew is one of the few that actually can make a titanium not only super comfortable, but also really stiff and snappy. So yeah, something different.
That's awesome. Yeah, my bike that's on the way is steel. Well, it's a bomb track. I'm buying Evelyn's old bomb track needle frame.
That's the one. Yeah, I did it. I had the needle frame for the last year and a half. So
yeah, I'm excited because I have a bomb track road bike that's steel and I really love it. So I'm like excited to have a bike that's similar geometry and same material.
Yeah, no, yes. Steel is like, it's a very reliable material. My honest opinion is that if the sport moves forward, I also believe carbon fiber will be more and more important, because at the moment it doesn't make sense for manufacturers to make a whole different carbon fiber mold. And I have no mold for a carbon fiber bike, for a frame. Mm-hmm. But I have no idea about the track bikes that are now being used. For example, Colin's Pinarello, which is a super stiff track bike. Never really, I have no experience on it. Maybe it's good, but I don't know. I believe a fixed gear bike needs, fixed gear crit bike needs different qualities than a velodrome track bike.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's kind of what I like about the needle, is it has like the geometry for me, because I'm kind of a bigger guy with short legs, and the geometry just feels so good when I'm on that bike. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and it's a special crit geometry. Like I know the Olaf Witt designed it, and he has a lot of knowledge for geometries. Like he was part of the team that built 10 years ago. There was a big project in the Netherlands to build a new Koga for Theo Bos, who just got third today in the 1K track world championships. And he was part of the team, so he has a lot of knowledge. And it's not a bad frame. You got yourself a good one, I think.
Sweet, I'm excited. So, what are your favorite, or what's your favorite Red Hook race?
Last year, I really loved London, because I didn't know, but apparently I was I'm a pretty solid rain rider. Unfortunately, I got punctured in the final.
No.
But yeah, that sucked. Like in the heat, I won my heat with a pretty big gap by just riding my, corners and riding on the speed I was comfortable with. And then I was in front. I was leading one lap actually in the main race, and then I got punctured. Like there was a big safety pin from someone's number. It was in my tube when I left the race. Like I even have a photo of it from after the race. That sucked. But Brooklyn is special. Brooklyn is where it all began. And the really cool thing about Brooklyn for Fixer Crit is because we're such close partners with Red Hook. We also often, just in the week before, work in the Red Hook Crit office. So we can really see how such a big event, the whole organization behind it. Because, yes, it's David Trimble's work, but there's so many other people that work so hard. It's and the funny thing is for the event, for how big it is, there's not that many people actually working on it. Like that's the crazy. Like they're so efficient, I think, with the small budget they have.
So who should we be watching for this year? Besides yourself, obviously.
Oh no, no. I'm just gonna see. I just hope to keep all the top riders in eyesight.
Yeah.
And for myself, I really think the level got so high that yes, I can maybe be in sub top on a good day, and you never know, because I know I can ride a bike, but with, for example, a guy like Vigano who's basically a pro still, it will be very hard. So I honestly think Vigano will have a really big shot at keeping at staying champion, and probably also getting his first Retu Crit individual race win. Although Colin's also really eager, and the specialized team. I mean, Eamon is now racing here for a Dutch Pro team, so I think he lost some weight. I'm not sure if it actually is going to help him in the crits, because he really wants to try to get pro on the road, and he wants to get pro in which discipline, I think, but at the moment you can only be pro on the road. So he's focusing on that, and I don't know if those 200k races, if he's going to benefit a lot from it, although he will have a really high level. So Eamon, definitely. Alec Briggs, what he did in London last year was absolutely insane. But also don't forget, all the Italians like Pocchianti, he's the Italian champion. I don't think he got podium this year, but he will get his podium spot for sure. Then we have the first Dutch Retro Crit winner was fixed gear legend Stefan Vis. But this year, finally, another Dutch guy won, David van Eert. He's one of the smartest crit racers in the Netherlands. And if you're one of the not only smartest but also best road crit racers in the Netherlands, and if you're one of the best in the Netherlands, then obviously you're world class. And he's just so good at bike handling. He's so good at reading the race. He knows exactly which wheel he needs to take, and he knows exactly what he can and what he can't do. So I wouldn't be surprised if David, again, is going to surprise the whole field, because for many it was a surprise. Well, honestly, I didn't expect him to win a Retu Crit last year, but I did expect him to be on the podium, because I raced against him almost every NL Crit Series race, and he's a guy who knows how to use his capabilities 100%. He might not be the most talented rider in the field, but he's using every talent that he has. He's using it optimally. For the rest, who else am I? Because I didn't really prepare for this question. Who else do I think is going to be really good? Let me. The Italians are always good, and then there's obviously some new guys coming in. I'm also really curious to see how Angus is actually doing for Specialized. Yeah, and then the Bohumer team, of course, they're Fortin. Yeah, he's still a pro for the Austrian team, so obviously will be up there. And then Timon Seubert, actually also the German guy. I don't know how he is preparing, but he's extremely strong. There was last year one time in the Waterkant Crit, we were in a breakaway with him, David van Eert, who in the end won the race. But Timon did, I tried to do an attack, but I wasn't really feeling super good that day. And then Timon counterattacked, and I just had to give everything to just not be dropped from the group. This guy, he rode on a Pro Tour level, did all the spring classics. So this guy has a lot of power. And also still waiting for Santos David Santos for his first win, because he's really strong. But he just needs to have a bit more luck. He was, I think, last year one of the most unlucky riders. So that's there's at least, I mean, I can just continue, but there's at least 20 riders that can all win a Retu Crit, and that's why I think our fixed gear crit racing is a sport, because it's the top is there's so many good riders, top level riders. So yeah,
I'm interested to see too. I'm releasing Addison his episode tomorrow, and he talked a lot about State's women's team this year is going to be really strong, I think.
I have no clue who's in it, actually.
Yeah, they haven't. I don't even think they've actually,
No, they promised me to send me all the info, because I was in touch with the application part. And obviously, I hope that also through fixedgearcred.com, as I may say, they got some good applications. But that's really cool, because I know there's I think this year is going to be the first year in Retu Crit that there's actually going to be 4 to 5 really good women teams. And that's that's another thing I'm really proud of on the sport, that the sport tries to do everything to be all inclusive, and also to have, like women having their own race, having, like also like getting their sport developed, which actually is funny because in road cycling, they only started a little bit caring a little bit about women cycling since 3 years.
So what are your goals with fixedgearcrit.com? What are your plans for the future?
Yeah, well, like I said, this year we're going to try to, make it grow. We're going to have a forum section. We're going to have a whole new website. We're going to talk with Wingstore, because Wingstore is also a really important partner, like the guys from the super cool Chinelli caps and stuff. So we're going to talk with them to see if we can renew or not, because like we have a lot of costs as well in keeping a website up, in traveling and contacting people and writing, and I don't need to make money from fixedgearcrit.com, because maybe some people think that I'm close to becoming a millionaire, which is obviously not the case, because it's a very super low budget initiative. But we need to also keep our servers up, because I generally think in the last year it actually costed me quite some money, but in the long term, it's worth it if it can help the sport grow. And we're actually also looking into Koen and I, like if anyone ever sees a pretty big guy with glasses and probably a phone in his hand standing next to me, that's Koen, and he's also doing like a really, really good job. And without him, the website wouldn't be online, because it's a two-man's project with the help of some Fixed Gear Crit contributors as well. But we're also looking into actually maybe opening a bike coffee place in Maastricht to have sort of headquarters. It's going to be like also where the Fixed Gear Crit sport will play a big role, and pro cycling, because we live, like Maastricht is the area where a lot of pros live and where the Amstel Gold Race starts. And yeah, I feel like combining, the best of pro road cycling with the best of Fixed Gear Crit racing is also a really good thing. And when a lot of pros hear about the sport, it can also help it. So yeah, that's maybe the future step. But first I need to write my master thesis in June. It's due in June. So and then we're all going to have more time.
What's getting you excited about this season?
First thing what makes me excited is riding my fixed gear bike again. Like I can't wait for the new titanium bike to come in and to just like test it and accelerate with it. And then obviously I have a special bond with Retro Crit Brooklyn, because last year I was only racing, not really only racing, like I raced in the first and foremost because I really love riding my fixed gear bike and racing it, but I was also really racing to help promote Fixed Gear Crit. And I also believe that you can not only, but it really helps. And I had the opportunity to be in the scene and also ride, like in pretty okay positions. So with the top riders, to make sure that the voice on fixedgearcrit.com is also representing the community. And then in Brooklyn, like, yeah, David can tell you the story probably better than I did, but David was like nagging me all time, like, you're not gonna get into the final, no way, because I barely trained. I literally, like, it's in 2 weeks before Brooklyn, I didn't do anything. I was only working there in the office, like 9 hours or 12 hours per day. And then the day before Red Hook, I did a run to the park, and then Gabe, the speaker, even told me, like, great crit preparation. Like, there's, you're not gonna get anywhere tomorrow. so then race day happened, and I just attacked from second lap and just won my heat solo, which everyone was like astonished, like, what the hell's going on here? so that really motivated me to get back in shape, because like obviously in the final I lacked the fitness to like recover and just keep going. So I ended up like 34th or 33rd, like right behind Kiki, actually. That's what I remember. But it did motivate me to just, one season to race a lot of races in the Netherlands, a lot of road crits, because, that's the only way, unfortunately, at the moment you can get a really high level, because there's just not enough high-level fixed gear races. Luckily, there's the NL Crit Series, so that already helps. And then a lot of road races. So I'm stoked for Brooklyn to happen and see if I lost a bit of weight, took training a lot more serious, and see if that pays off.
That's awesome. Is there anything else you want to say before we head out?
I want to say hi to my mom, but she doesn't speak English, so no, just no, just like I think my main message is, like I, like everyone else in the sport, really love it for not only the sport, but for the whole experience that you have when riding a fixed gear bike. On top of that, for people, coming together from all sorts of backgrounds and respect each other, because especially in today's world, that's a pretty rare thing. And yeah, I just really hope this sport can keep growing, and everyone that, I don't expect everyone to be on the same line or agree with me, and I totally respect that, as long as, everyone tries to be, have positive, try to work positive for the sports. To give you, small examples, sorry, I'm rambling on. Like, as Fixed Gear Crit, we just published the Fixed Gear Crit Gear Guide. We're going to publish it probably soon again. And it's just a small guide to help people that start fixed gear riding, because they have no clue about gears. They have no clue about what a 4814 is, what 5115 is. So we did a gear guide just to help people with their gear selection for their first races or training rides. And then it was so funny to see how many of the veterans from the community responded negatively, like, no, you can't just select it. It's not that easy. Well, in the article, we actually mentioned this is just, a first step into selecting your gears. And you trial and error, and it really depends on personal preference, like how explosive you are to which gear you should ride. But it was just really interesting that the first thing some community members do is have a negative response, instead of looking at the broader picture that, no, it's not for the top riders in the Retrocrit final, but it's for those people that just come in and want to enter the sport. So, I just hope people stay. Our sport is cool because everyone's so open-minded. I hope people stay like that, open-minded and welcoming.
Agreed. Where can people find you?
Fixgearcrit.com, you mean? They can find me there. They can find me on my Instagram, Brian Megens. I guess. And they can find me in Maastricht, probably hanging out in a coffee place.
Nice. Hey, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you too. And awesome initiative, and keep it going.
All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of Save the Track Bike. The music is from Vitamin Pets. The song is called Slag Girl. Thank you to O Wheelie Bike Shop. Thank you to fixgearcrit.com. This episode was produced and hosted by me, Josh LeBure. All right, we'll see you next time.